Three, two, one. Inspiration Nation, hello. Lee Kemp here for another week on the podcast. A few minutes late due to some technical issues, but we're all doing good. Live on YouTube and TikTok with Jose Noya and Ryan Boniface. And I just want to say, guys, before I ask how you are, which we just realised we missed it. Last week was our 5-year anniversary of the podcast, which I think is massive congratulations to all of us. Thanking everyone out there who's got us to where we are now. And of course, how are you guys?
Very well, thank you.
Glad to hear it. Right, Ryan, you have promised us an outstanding quote this week. So I'm not setting you up for a fall, but I cannot wait to hear what is going to be our greatest ever episode of Inspiration Nation.
Outstanding quotes, probably a little suggestive, but I did suggest that this quote was actually not a cop-out quote that I would sometimes bring from fictional television shows. Although I do believe they still hold a good message.
Love some of them. Some of them are great shows with those quotes. So
100%. It's good that you can find self-development from fictional sources and things like that, rather than always having to listen to certified authors and things like that. But funny enough, this week's quote is from a certified author. Have either of you heard of a gentleman called Daniel Goleman?
Yes, emotional intelligence, if I'm correct.
Joe is correct.
Very enthusiastic there, Jose. I love it.
So I was on the old TikTok the other week. Sorry, not the other week, the other day. Back into last week, and this quote appeared, and it was taken out of a book that Daniel had written. I'm not sure if it came out of emotional intelligence or if it did. I'm not 100% on that. I could be wrong. But the quote is, if your emotional abilities aren't in hand, if you don't have self-awareness, if you are not able to manage your distressing emotions, if you can't have empathy and have effective relationships, then no matter how smart you are not going to get very far. You need me to repeat that, or did we get it?
It was good. No, we got that.
Got it. And for me, I think my emotional intelligence is probably one of my biggest strengths. At least I would hope it is. I suppose the only way to ever know that is to ask the people around you. But I think that it's one of my better traits, especially as a manager or a leader of people, is you learn how to build rapport by understanding how people feel, either directly because you felt the same thing before, or by genuinely demonstrating that you can understand and empathize with how certain things make people feel. Anything else either comes off as a bit of a sham, or in my view that is, or doesn't quite feel as sincere as perhaps it could be. Now, we talk about things like that as if they're always negative things, but it also works in a positive way as well. Understanding how good something makes somebody feel, and how to control not over spiraling out of that is just as important as understanding how something negative can make somebody feel and the impact that can have, and supporting them through it as well. I think when people talk about emotional intelligence and empathy and sympathy and all of the other types of emotion that people face, bias, conscious biases and things like that, it always sounds like it's coming from a place of construction or negativity, or the scenarios always appear to be downtrodden, maybe. But that isn't always the case. And there's just parts of it that make me think that 5 years ago, funnily enough, I probably was the person that thought, I'm really smart. I don't really need to know how somebody feels about something because I'm a clever guy. I'll work it out. And over the last 5 years, and to be fair, I probably hit the wall of that being really, really wrong quite early on in my leadership career. But I think it's something that once I had that epiphany, that light bulb moment where I was like, oh, that's how empathy actually feels. It was then something I wanted to tap into more. So from my perspective, it's just adding strength to you as a manager. Sometimes I like to picture being a manager as I think it's I might be culturally wrong here, but have you ever seen the picture of, I think it's Buddha sat there with his legs crossed and his um hands kind of like this, and he's kind of meditating. And there's not a meme per se, but I've definitely seen a template where about 10 speech bubbles come out of the character in the middle. I probably butchered it. It probably isn't Buddha, but you know what I mean. And in each of the speech bubbles is different things that they're trying to be mindful of, and trying to battle. Could even be a to-do list, could be whatever it was. And I think once I understood that emotional intelligence, that speech bubble filled, and it's something that I've now feel like I always understand. And if I don't, then, or a situation doesn't feel that way, then I do my utmost to try and gain an understanding of it. But how does that make you feel? That quote, what kind of stuff does it resonate with you guys?
Lee, do you want to jump in?
Yes, I do. Before I forget it, I was just teeing up Rover Jose. Stay till the end to hear his thoughts with a question around this particular subject before it leaves my mind. So, for me, my personal bit on emotional intelligence is I think that is a skill I have developed over the years, and I think I'm still developing and still conscious of, and still will always be there. I think I definitely, when I was younger, didn't have a high level of emotional intelligence, or if I did, it was dampened or muted by my own self interest. I think I very much saw the world through my eyes and my eyes only, certainly when
Yeah,
I was younger. And then as I got older, got a bit better and it got a bit better and it got better. And there's things I look back now, epiphanies. I remember one of my first real mentors, and she had a really good understanding of other people and their motivations and why they would do things, and looking at things like strategically for other people's eyes. And it just blew my mind, I think, just because it wasn't a way that I thought at the time. Which ironically now is something people will talk to me and I say, well, look at this, or why are they doing that? And I'll have those same sort of conversations that I was absolutely in awe of, because it almost opened my eyes to that way of thinking. And then you try and get better, try and get better. Then there's all the stuff we've talked about in the learning or whatever. But it's definitely a learned skill, and a learned skill through hard lessons. You get some of those sharp moments where you haven't considered someone else's perspective and they almost call it out in one way or another. And I think I'm quite adaptable, and I adapt that into myself and try and learn from it and try and get better with it. And I definitely think, because it isn't something when I was younger that came naturally to me, it's always in my consciousness. So it's like it's a spectrum or a scale, and I was here and I'm now up towards the higher end of it, but I'm still always trying to push myself and push myself and push myself. And especially when I feel under pressure for whatever reason, or I was going to say, oh, there's a lot going on, but that's just a cause of feeling under pressure. But whatever that is, I think that's one of the first things that can slip away sometimes, is that, that free people perspective, as I call it, from an NLP thing, where you kind of look from your perspective, the other person's perspective, and a neutral one. And I'm conscious that's the first thing I can lose when I'm feeling under pressure. So I have to keep pushing with it. So it's an important topic to me, just because I think it's something I think I'm good with now, and people have told me that, but I know the journey I've gone on to get there, and I know how easy it is for it to kind of slip into the background as well. And I say it's good with you and your self-awareness, Ryan, and just, I suppose, a bit of feedback, because I definitely think, like you said, it's something that wasn't there and it's got there. In the same way, though, I've seen that journey with you where I think it's there and it starts to be there and you become more aware. Back to one of the
yeah,
first episodes you referenced recently with the whole unconscious incompetent, conscious incompetent, conscious competent. And I've seen that journey with you over the years where it's come in more and more and more and more. And I suppose my advice is never tick it off as being done, because I think it's an area we can always improve on. But I've definitely, through the podcasts and stuff, seen that journey with you. And in fact, if we went back and listened to the whole 5 years, same as it would be for all of us with various things, there's probably that journey going through there, which is I
yeah,
think is a big benefit of these conversations and us having them every week, as we now know, for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
But yeah,
definitely.
it really resonates with me strongly. But I think it's one of the areas I've progressed from one side of the scale to the other in the most, albeit that's over like a 20-25 year period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jose, yourself.
Yeah, I love this because, as you said, so I love this. I read this thing the other day actually, because we think we're getting better at emotional intelligence, and I agree with Lee. It's an ongoing thing. I think, oh yeah, I'm getting better at it, and then I come across this quote which I thought was brilliant. I thought it's a quote to add on to what you did, Rob, because I think it's a brilliant quote by Daniel Goleman, because it's such a difficult thing to continue to try and understand how people are feeling and thinking, because humans are they're just so intricate depending on where they sit. And we're ourselves, right? So we try and understand someone else who's just as intricate from whatever standpoint. And for me, there's a quote called, I don't know who he said it, but it's the more I know, the less I know. I absolutely love this, because the more I delve into some of this stuff, the less I actually know. And an example of this was, I think I was coaching a leader not long ago, probably a couple of years ago. And, you think everything's going fine, and you think, oh, but then, it wasn't going fine. It wasn't going fine. So I had to get feedback. I don't know if I said this story before, but I had to get feedback in the moment. I was thinking, how am I going to get past this roadblock? Because I could see there was resistance. I could see the resistance. And they were giving me answers that I felt that they wanted me to hear, right? And I thought, oh, on the surface, you might think, oh, this is all lovely. But underneath, I could sense that resistance. And I had to open up. I said, hey, let's have an honest conversation, and let's be truthful about this. How's it going? And they said, it isn't going very well. I said, what's not going very well? I don't like what you're doing. So literally, I had to get feedback in the moment, and I had to pivot the whole conversation. But I think that's just an example of, we can presume and assume lots of things. And I think you said pointedly about, was it assumptions is making an arse out of you and me or something? Assume, isn't it? Or something? I think that's such a powerful thing, right? Because we can assume a lot of things as a human being. We can assume, oh, it's coming from a place of X, Y, Z, but it's actually not coming from that place at all. So I think this is all about really finding out what people are feeling and thinking, but being able to play for a place of honesty, because we may think something's going on, but it's not. But what I do, I know you mentioned the 3 perspective model as well. I struggle with that still. I still struggle with that. Trying to put myself on the, like being on the wall bit where you're seeing 2 people. I struggle with that. I can do the almost like their shoes thing, but I struggle with the looking from a third person. But I think it's super powerful. But there's a tool that I've used called the perspective models, and you actually do that. You actually run through the model. I think I did it with Ryan. I did it with you, Ryan. One of the episodes we did it with you, Ryan. Remember? Do you remember?
Yeah.
That one. That is the thing that makes me. Actually, if you go back, I don't know what episode it is, but it's the change perspective. So that 3 model thing where we're trying to resolve something. I think I was asking Ryan to be that person, and I think it's really powerful to do that. What we're trying to get at here, well, I suppose what I'm trying to get at really is just that we just need to be mindful and open with people, and sometimes share our own vulnerabilities for people to open up and to understand where they're coming from. Because sometimes I think we can assume a lot of things when not a lot of things. And the other thing is, I said earlier to the guys on the podcast actually that I'm supporting some of my friends at work with Ramadan, because this is actually another thing I think this ties into this quite nicely, is that I say, oh, that must be really difficult. I can sort of understand what you're doing, right? Can I really understand? Do I really understand? Well, now I'm doing it. Now I really understand what it's about, right? What I thought was hard, it's just next level, right? Where you just can't eat or drink from in sunrise. You can only eat at sunset, right? So yeah, I just love this, Ryan, because we can assume a lot of things, and a lot of that time's wrong. And I've done that. I've been wrong quite a few times, and so I'm very conscious about trying to get feedback and trying to open up a conversation that is very honest and say, hey, what do you think about this? And them to be able to be honest with me. And then I still may not know the absolute truth, right? Because the people are going to be guarded sometimes, but I will do my best to open that door so then I can really feel what the emotion is going on, so they can tell me, so I can empathize with that position. But yeah, I like to think that I'm okay at it, but I still got more to learn, because there are so many different human beings out there. But I love this, Ryan. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's my perspective anyway.
I think. Oh, sorry, go on.
All I was going to say is I'll give you a little tip on the, and this might be something you do already, but one thing that really helps me with the three-person perspective is it's not a fictional person. There's a person that I know who I will soundboard stuff off sometimes, who's really good at taking that neutral opinion, and I imagine having a conversation with that person about the situation if I need to, and that really helps kind of centre it, that it's not just an independent looking at both. It's actually, if I gave them that, what would they probably say? And it really helps. And then sometimes I've imagined it and then I've actually had the conversation and I'm pretty much in the right place, and it really helps bring that model to life for me.
Well, do you know, actually, you saying that now, I've actually used Robo Jose to ask questions of
Robo Jose, inspiration.org.uk.
Yeah, honestly, but I've asked him because almost it's like that sounding board. He's like that sounding board, actually, which is quite powerful. I asked a couple of questions today. What was the question I asked? I think, yeah, if someone's struggling to open up, what could be like, what would be good questions, or if someone's got a fixed mindset, what would be good question to ask? And so it's really like a sounding board. Like, I want to get out of my own head and try and get another perspective. I quite like that. So Lee, I quite like that idea actually. So yeah, I'm going to take that.
Okay, take that. Ryan, you were going to say?
Yes, sorry.
I was going to say that I'd never. I probably should read this book because I didn't even. I feel like I do the three-person perspective myself without ever knowing that it was a thing. I probably may have picked up information from it from conversations with you guys and things like that, but it's just a really clever way to take your personal incentives out of something and the other person's and see an objective point of view, like what is fair in terms of everything, really.
And I think my anchor person out there's someone who is very good even with their own situations at stripping the emotion out of it, and that's why they're my thought as to who I try and model that on when I'm having that imaginary. Sometimes it's in the moment, it's not like I replay the conversation, it might be as it's happening, but it just really helps. Exactly like you said, Ryan, it takes all the emotional in the moment stuff out of the situation, that's where things always go wrong.
Yeah.
Do you know what? And I really like that because there's this brilliant model that I found, and I think I've heard of it before, but it's in this book. This one here, The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay, but I can't find the page, but it's in here. But it's the triangle. Is it the triangle? You mentioned the triangle, which is brilliant, and it actually keeps you in this state of neutrality. And I try and hold this when I'm coaching. Right, there are three ways we can show up. We can be the victim, or someone could be the victim, the rescuer, or the persecutor. So the persecutor is the judgment part. The rescue is someone you're trying to save someone, and the victim is the one who's you're just saying, "Oh, it's all bad," and you're just playing into that. And I love that when you said neutrality. That's when I am trying to have a conversation. I try and sit in the centre of all that. So I'm not going to judge them. I'm not also fall into any victimhood, and also I'm not trying to save them. And to stay in that centre is actually quite. You can see and you can sense the emotion, but you don't actually absorb the emotion.
Yeah.
And I think that's really powerful because someone could tell you something really difficult. And before I sort of got into, like Ryan a little bit, like before we became aware of emotional intelligence, all that stuff, I would absorb so much, like literally. And I'm so lucky to work with the Samaritans, and everyone knows a story about my mental health and stuff that I'll reveal back in the podcast. Go back to the podcast episodes. But those lessons really taught me that you don't have to absorb. You can listen, but not absorb. And I think that triangle and not falling into any of those three, I don't know what you call them, but elements, they call them, will really help you stay neutral in the conversation. And you're not there to judge them. If they say something, you think, "Oh, you try not." But sometimes you're a human being, right? You do.
Oh no, but sometimes that's what people need. They don't need to be judged, and they don't need to be rescued. They just need to sound it off. So I think that's a really good place to put yourself.
Yeah, and again, and also, you're not buying into any victimhood either.
Yeah, you don't need to fuel it.
Yeah, you don't fuel it because you're just perpetuating the behaviour, right? So. But we've all fallen into those things, right? But the thing is, I've been the judger, I've been the victim, and I've also been the rescuer. So it's really a powerful thing to be aware of that when you're ever having a conversation, or even when you are facing a challenge yourself, to have that, like going back to Ryan was talking about, the emotional intelligence to recognise what's going on, and to activate your prefrontal cortex, right? Because we're emotional beings. We are emotional. So we'll react emotionally first, then we'll justify it with we'll justify it with our with our prefrontal cortex, right? But what we've got to remember is that we've got to be careful about. We've got to really look at that emotion with ourselves and with others. But honestly, Ryan, I blooming love this subject. I could literally talk about this for hours because it's such a powerful thing, isn't it? And it's got such a lot of depth to it because we're emotional human. People are more emotional, but we are emotional beings. We have that centre. But no, thank you. I really love this.
Before you do talk about it for hours, any more on the subject, Ryan, before I hand over to our improved version of Jose?
I was just going to say that I've seen a video once, or I might have seen a post on Reddit or something like that, where somebody went up to random old people and asked them what was the success to their longevity of their marriage and things like that. And one of the things that's always stuck with me, and it fits into this, is one of the blokes said, sometimes the woman doesn't need to be the damsel saved in distress. They just need to hear. They just need to understand that you hear them.
Yes.
Great bit of advice.
Oh my God, that's inspiring. Yes, Ryan. Is the answer to that? That's
So
really
it's funny how these formal non-fictional subjects can link into all manners of life that you wouldn't even believe of. These things sound really worky, really formal, really educational, but they actually benefit you or they can have the ability to benefit you in so many different ways.
Yeah, absolutely right. And just to reinforce on that one, because it's a great bit of advice, and I know I'm conscious of that. I got that, and it was actually from a TV show where I got that bit of advice. But I've been on the receiving end of that, where I'm just about something that's really wound me up because I'm in the moment, and someone's trying to offer me solutions, and I'm like, I don't want a solution. I just want to moan about it for them, and not consciously, but subconsciously, and it actually rolls you up. And I'm conscious of that the other way around, trying to spot when people are in that moment and just letting them get it out. Wait until they become more, and it's definitely a pattern we go through as people, but I think that's a spot on bit of advice. Ryan, if you out there, if you want some spot on advice, head over to Jose's brother, Robo Jose, inspirationnation.org.uk. In fact, we'll bring him in right now. Pop him up. If you're on YouTube, he's in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. If not, we'll still talk through it. So I'm going to ask Robo Jose, can you explain to me your thoughts on the importance of emotional intelligence and how I could coach myself to be better at this? And I'm going to click send, and we're going to see what he says.
Look at that. AI life coach in live. So come on, Robo. Let's see what you got. Come on, brother. My brother. He's my brother. Love this.
I prefer him, if I'm honest. I prefer him. So the importance of emotional intelligence. Robo says, emotional intelligence is a crucial skill that can greatly impact every area of our lives, just like Ryan just said right there. It involves being aware of managing our emotions effectively whilst understanding and influencing the emotions of others. Here are some key reasons why it's essential. Enhanced relationships. Developing emotional intelligence helps in building better and stronger relationships with others. By understanding emotions, you can communicate more effectively, resolve conflicts peacefully, and cultivate empathy towards others. Better decision making. So when you're in tune with emotions, you can make better decisions that are not solely based on logic, but also taking into account your feelings and the feelings of others. This leads to more well-rounded and thoughtful decision making. I think that was that epiphany moment you talked about, Ryan. Stress management. By recognising and addressing your emotions, you can prevent stress from escalating and maintaining a sense of calm in challenging situations. And personal development. By being emotionally intelligent, it allows you to have a deeper understanding of yourself. This self-awareness is key to personal growth, and it helps you identify strengths. And then says coaching strategies for improving emotional intelligence. So self-reflection. Take time to reflect on your emotions and reactions. Journaling, you'll have that, Jose, can be a powerful tool to track your feelings, triggers and behavioural patterns. Mindfulness practice, engage in mindful techniques such as meditation and deep breathing exercises. These practices can help you stay present in the moment, manage stress and regulate your emotions effectively. Empathy building, practice putting yourself in others' shoes and seeing situations from their perspective. This empathy building exercise will enhance your ability to understand and connect with the emotions of those around you. And set emotional goals is the last one. Just like setting goals for every area of your life, be specific, set emotional intelligence goals. For example, you could aim to respond calmly in stressful situations or actively listen to others without judgment. I think that is some fantastic advice there from Robo Jose. What do you guys think?
Really agree.
Yeah.
Again, that is out there. That is free. That is a tool anyone can use. Inspirationation.org.uk is there right now. No sign up, no fees, no downloads, no nothing. just put in your questions and go.
I love that. Yeah, I love the bit about the the perseverance, because I think it's about life's about finding out more about yourself, isn't it? And if you can understand yourself better, then you've got much more of a chance of being able to understand others better. So I love that. Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, that's one thing we didn't mention, really, wasn't it? About the journey into yourself, about understanding yourself and your own emotions, what your triggers are. So
absolutely,
yeah,
and the more you do that, the more you can see it in other people, I think. Absolutely. Right, Ryan, you lived up to your promise. That was a fantastic subject. I really enjoyed that one. As Joe said, we could have gone on for hours probably, but we try and keep ourselves to half an hour, so let's keep that going now. But thank you. Anything else to add? And in fact, takeaways. Jose, your takeaway first.
My takeaway from this one is the journey into yourself. I'm taking Robo's bit there, that I think, like, the more I know, the less I know is so true, because the more you find out about yourself, the deeper you can go about what and who you are, what drives you, what your triggers are, then you'll be able to understand other people much better. And as I said, a little bit yours really about let people vent, because my child says, I have to say to him, look, if you just want me to listen to something, he says, just tell me what it is, right? So they tell me, Dad, I just want you to listen. You don't have to do anything else other than that. So that's what I'm taking away from it. Yeah, and I've got to remind myself of that, because I do fall into the I think I sometimes fall into that rescuer trap, the rescuer.
Yeah, it's easy to do. It's easy to do.
Yeah,
that leads you nicely into my takeaway, which is just to keep being mindful of this. I know it's on my easy to drop list, so I just need to keep it present, because it's like you said, you get better outcomes, you have better relationships with people, and you feel less stressed. It's a win all round. So I'm going to try and keep it there. And Ryan,
Nice.
any last thoughts and your takeaway on this awesome subject?
I think my takeaway would be remember to check yourself. You're not always the finished article with
before
things
you
like
wreck
this.
yourself.
Yeah, there you go.
Like that.
Awesome stuff. Thank you. Enjoy everyone out there. If you're enjoying what we're doing, subscribe, hit like, leave us a review, all that great stuff. Follow Jose Noya. Just stick him in your Google machine. Follow us everywhere. And don't forget inspirationation.org.uk. Robo Jose's there. He is real. He is doling out this free advice. And if you are liking what he's doing, just follow us on our socials. Leave us a comment about it. We would love to hear what people's interactions are. Right, I'll count us down. And we'll be back again next week. 3, 2, 1. Inspiration Nation.
Inspiration Nation.
Catch you
Catch
guys
you guys later.
Later.
Me and Lee are quite in tune there, and you, Joe.